Welcome back. Today we're talking about personal safety. Even when you take precautions to safeguard yourself and your property, sometimes you may find yourself in danger. Knowing a few self-defense techniques, both physical and psychological, may help you help yourself in that unfortunate situation. With us now is Joanna Lyon, who teaches self-defense for women here at Montgomery College. Welcome. Thanks for being with us
Joanna.
today.
Glad to be here.
Let me start off by asking you, since I was telling a lot of people about the show today, they said, Fritzy, you're so small, you could never be good at defending yourself. Is it true that you have to be big, or can someone my size be adequate at defending themselves?
Definitely. You could definitely be very good at self-defense. I had for example, this past semester, I had a young lady who was a model, and she was very petite. And she had been, we didn't find out till near the end of the semester, after training the whole semester, she had been in the store shopping. And when she would go to this store, there was a middle-aged man who would pester her. He would come, he would grab her arm, he would want to go on dates with her. And she told the security guard at the store, and the security guard was on watch, but it didn't seem to help the situation. Well, finally, near the end of the semester, and she was a very petite little girl, young woman, I should say. She came in and she said, I just don't know what happened. I went into the store and this man came up and he grabbed me, and I don't know, maybe I just had enough. And she turned and she palm-heeled him under the jaw. His head flipped back, and I'm sure he bit his tongue. He fell on the floor, and at the end of the semester, we had heard that he had not bothered her again. And she was very petite and tiny. So a lot of it is not your size. If you were going to street fight, with a guy with street fight techniques, that may be true. But the techniques that we teach in PE 173, Women's Self-Defense. The techniques we teach are for average women. They're for women who are not fighters, who are not used to wrestling with their brothers or their boyfriends or their spouses. They're not people who are boxers. They're for the average woman with little or no experience at all in self-defense. So it's actually a lot of fun when you see the women come into the class. This past semester, we had about 23 of them. And they came in and they were just fearful and just didn't think they could do anything. And by the end of the class, when we have our simulation, we have a man dress up in a big red suit and attack them. And that's part of their final, is they need to defend themselves realistically against this man. He got hurt this semester. And he is in padding and they are in padding. And they went after him, and he was actually injured by several of the students.
Joanna, I was going to ask you about that, about people who think that it might be a little too intense for them, that maybe there's somebody at home that says, I don't really want to learn to fight. What can you tell them to get them to take the class?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is it may be a life or death situation, whether they do learn how to fight or not. Because if they're afraid to ever learn to engage anyone physically, and then a situation comes where they are attacked on campus. 5 of my students were attacked this semester, and they needed to use their self-defense, then they will be injured much more. The other thing is we start very slow. The women as a whole, the women know nothing when they come in. And we begin with basic blocks and defenses, and I will take each woman as far as she is able to go. Last semester I had a woman with cystic fibrosis, and she had very little use of her legs, but yet we were still able to take her to where she could ward off an attacker to the best of her ability. So the goal of the class is to do the best you can. You're not graded on being a superwoman or attacking someone. It's more to get to a situation where you're able to get away from a situation, an assailant.
And it's not all about the physical. Some of it is not. Psychological, your attitude, your confidence.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. We say in our text, we use the RAD curriculum, which is a nationally accredited curriculum. The RAD curriculum says that 90% of self-protection and self-defense is your awareness and your confidence. Being aware of, oh, there's somebody, that could potentially be hiding behind my car. I will not park behind an occupied vehicle. I won't park behind, a large van or between large vans. I'll be careful when I'm going which path I take to the parking garage in the evening. I won't give my number out. When I'm interested, I go to a club, I'm interested, let the fella give me his number. I won't drive with him on the first date. I don't know who this person is. I'll tell a friend that I'm going out with someone that I don't know in case I don't come back. somebody needs to know that I didn't come back. And if you don't want to tell your parents, tell a friend, tell somebody, so that you're out. We see a lot, women in general are large victims on a campus in particular. They're seen as weak, they're seen as easy and vulnerable. So what we need to do is we need to teach those women the techniques so that they are not those easy victims, and backup systems so that there are people looking out for them and they're looking out for themselves better.
You have a martial arts background.
Yes, I
now,
do.
what's the difference between the class that they can take here at Montgomery College to the class that they can take at, say, their local gym, where it's a cardio kickboxing, and
Yeah.
somebody thinks that because I take cardio
Yeah.
kickboxing, well, if somebody's going to attack me, I'm just going to give them, what I
Yeah.
learned in that class.
That's a
That's
very
not
good question.
necessarily the truth. What's the
Very
little
good
bit of a
question.
difference there?
The big difference is martial arts takes many years before you're any good. I'll be perfectly honest. You have to be committed. You have to attend class regularly. You have to go for several years before you really could defend yourself, in my opinion. The women's self-defense is a 15-week class that is designed for women who perhaps will not go on to martial arts, boxing, kickboxing, anything else. It's designed with specific techniques, with strike zones. For example, a palm heel. If I were to palm heel you under the chin like my one student did, that's going to be a one decisive move that's not expected that will take that person out. I had a student who was at a club, and a guy was grabbing her from behind and he wouldn't get off. A back elbow behind. It took that guy right off of her. Decisive move that was created to be easy for women to do but was effective. And also our goal is to get away. Our goal is to take the attacker off of us and get out of range of the situation, where many forms of martial arts are more recreational now anyway. When I compete in tournaments, it's for points. I'm often criticized for giving too much contact. So whereas in the class, I will teach those women to drive through and hit, and that first hit needs to count.
So